Hey guys, it is Tamara. Thank you so much for coming back to my channel. Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the characteristics of adult parents with borderline personality disorder and characteristics. This is an interesting topic. Anytime I've ever talked about borderline personality disorder, I can safely say that I get a whole heap of emails and text messages and tweets and YouTube comments that tends to come from the community of those who are struggling with BPD in some way, whether that's in a relationship with someone, or that's a parent, or that's you yourself. And I find that the comment section gets pretty emotional, and part of that is because we're dealing with a disorder that's highly stigmatized. We're dealing with a disorder that really involves some characteristics that are hard to understand and manage and work with. So in today's video, I want to go over some of those characteristics and how I define them clinically, and then I want to give you a tool that you can use at home and a couple of tips as well. So thank you so much for coming back to my channel. For those who are subscribed, and for those who are new, I encourage you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you can stick around with us and be a part of our growing and validating community. The benefits for you in today's videos, I'm going to highlight some common clinical characteristics that I'm sure that you have had to come face to face with. And I also want to highlight a couple of ways that you can deal with an individual, a parent who has BPD, male or female, because it's also diagnosed with men. And I want to teach you a tool that you can use just for yourself. In case you don't know who I am, let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Tamara, and I'm an internationally licensed, certified, and board certified mental health therapist. And I specialize in working with children's, teens, and families, as well as adults that have either traumatic childhood or adults who are dealing with traumatic situations as grown-ups. And so if you stick around on this channel, you're going to see that, a lot of the videos that I have revolve around topics that rarely get discussed on YouTube and topics that rarely get discussed in the public eye. I encourage you to check out the channel, go ahead and search through it and see if you like some of the videos. So let's go ahead and jump into this topic. So, when I'm working with individuals who have borderline personality disorder, things get a little bit tricky. And things get tricky because borderline personality disorder is a personality disorder, meaning that there are ingrained patterns of behaviors and ways of thinking that really gets in the way sometimes of that individual seeing things from another perspective or somebody else's perspective. The ability to empathize with other people can sometimes be devoid, or it can sometimes be gone or absent, because what they're focused on at the moment is their own emotions. And so in order for them to be heard or be validated or feel validated, some individuals with BPD really put themselves out there emotionally, and they can come across as, rather dramatic at times. They can also come across as rather selfish, because it's all about them at that moment. Because really, for individuals who have BPD and they've suffered with it in terms of managing their emotions, it's really about them at that moment, and they want to get you to understand them so badly that, they really can come across as selfish, right? It's not really about you. It's not really about your needs, your wants, your desires, your pain. It's about me. And some people find that that's a big turnoff when they're, trying to have a relationship with someone with BPD. It's, a relationship is reciprocal. It's back and forth. And those who have had really bad abusive relationships with someone that has BPD can, honestly tell you that it can sometimes feel like they are walking through the fiery place, trying to have a relationship with that person. I like to characterize BPD on a spectrum. And so mild, moderate, and severe is really the simple spectrum that I use. And so, when I have individuals, whether teens or adults who have BPD or they're showing some traits, I like to categorize them on that spectrum. And if it's a mild individual who's kind of pushing moderate, we can work together. We can kind of make things work. If it's a moderate individual, we can definitely make that work in private practice. We can also work towards building skills. There's usually some level of insight at that stage. And clinically, things are good. We can work through emotions, thoughts, feelings. We can intellectualize certain things. But if we're dealing with somebody who has severe BPD, and possibly even BPD that isn't treated appropriately or hasn't been treated at all, then that's not appropriate for private practice. Then we need to get that individual into an agency where there's case management, where there's a therapist, a technician who can talk to them in certain moments of crises or crisis. We also need a psychiatrist on the team. So, I like to categorize BPD on a spectrum. So when you're dealing with individuals who are moderate to severe, things can really get murky. And so these are the parents that I'm going to be talking about in today's video. And let me just highlight and put out there as a disclaimer that this video is not about those individuals who have insight. It's not about those individuals who are struggling, but they know what they do wrong and they're working on it. And it's not about those individuals who are clearly struggling and have absolutely no control. This is about those parents, those individuals who have BPD. They know they are mean and cruel. They know that they are wrong. They know that they aren't healthy, but they continue to engage in behaviors that are very, very difficult for other people to deal with. All right, so let me go ahead and talk about some of these traits. So the first trait that I see in my practice, and I've seen when I've worked in agencies and schools and hospitals, is the number one sign of BPD is usually impulsivity. Individuals with BPD lack emotion regulation. They also lack the ability to tolerate distress. And so when something happens to them, the first thing they do is go off. Or, after really trying to hold it together, they snap and they explode. And things can get really murky at that point, These individuals also struggle with, trying to intellectualize and rationalize things. They don't have that ability because most of us, when we're hurt or when we are, trying to exist in a relationship and something bad has happened or something has gone wrong or there's been an argument or a disagreement, we try to intellectualize it, we try to figure it out, and then we become emotional. Or sometimes, we go over it over and over and over in our minds and we arrive at a conclusion. Individuals with BPD tend to act before they even, start thinking. Their cognitive abilities are kind of submerged under the emotion. And so that's what makes people with BPD impulsive. They don't necessarily know how to pump the brakes. And so that can be really difficult, as you can imagine. And I'm sure you've experienced it. The next thing is relational chaos, okay? And what I mean by relational chaos is storminess. There's always something going on in a relationship with these individuals. It's not, an individual who just had an argument, or an individual who can't find the right person, or a parent who can't get along with his or her children, right? Or, a parent who, can't regulate their emotions because they're angry all the time. These particular individuals, these parents tend to struggle in all relationships with their children, with their parents, with extended family, with their coworkers, with their boss. They can't get along with their neighbors, with the teachers, with the principals in school. They cannot get along, and the relationships tend to be murky. They tend to be stormy. They tend to be messy, research in the past, and this is before we become, as a clinical field, really educated about BPD, there were a lot of studies that suggested people with BPD were hard to be in a relationship with at all. There was always, this sense or this theory that, if you're in a relationship with someone with BPD, run, and that's not the case. We want to look at them on a spectrum. Again, we want to look at them, in a way that's a dynamic view, right? That they're changing and evolving and things can change. We don't want to be rigid. But those research studies basically said, hey, look, these people have stormy relationships, messy relationships. Don't get involved with them because it's not going to be peaceful. And some of that still remains true for those individuals who are, pushing severe. But for the most part, things can be worked out when you're dealing with a healthy person that has BPD. Okay, so the relationships tend to be rather murky. The next thing that I like to highlight and focus on with families is I'll put it this way, is the self-harm and suicidal ideation, suicidal attempts, and suicidal gestures. That's a lot to take in. So suicide attempts, suicide gestures, suicidal ideation, and self-injurious behaviors. And basically what I'm saying here is these are all the things that the individual struggles with that has some impact on whether they live or die, or has some impact on whether they're going to be injured or not. Self-harm can be burning oneself, scratching oneself, cutting oneself. Some people have gone as far as to cause their own wrecks, Some have gone so far as to jump off things so they can break bones. It really depends on how much self-inflicted pain that person can take, right? That determines how far they will go. You know, some people, especially my adolescents in the practice here, they cut. And sometimes that's as far as they're going to go. Some kids cut, and they cut their legs and their thighs and their chest and their belly and their arms. I worked in a psychiatric hospital for children and adolescents about maybe 9 years ago. And in that hospital, that's a long time ago to me. And in that hospital, I ran into a lot of kiddos who would cut everything from neck to toe. And one kid came in with bloody bandages all over. She had shorts on and a tank top, and she had bloody bandages all over. And her mom made her come to me that way because she wanted me to see the damages. And you know, that kid had cuts inside her thigh. She had cuts back of her thigh, near her bum. I mean, it was really, really bad. And so some people go really, really far because their emotions drive them to that. They really don't have, again, the emotion regulation to pause. They're very, very impulsive, okay? Some individuals with BPD are also very suicidal. They deal with the urges. They deal with the ideations, which are thoughts. And they also deal with really coming close, overdosing, jumping off of a bridge, or things, you know, involving murder or death. You know, sometimes they will put themselves in bad situations so they can get killed. I had a client like that last year, and that was really tough. I had to get a lot of consultation on that one, guys. And then some individuals, you know, struggle with just those thoughts, and they can't get them out of their head, and they almost obsess over them. Some individuals have what's called obsessive compulsive suicidal thoughts, which means they don't really necessarily have the tendency or the urge to commit suicide, but they have this obsessive compulsive urge. And they feel that because they're having those urges or those feelings or those obsessions that they want to do it. But as you can see in this definition over here, obsessive compulsive suicidal ideation is not being suicidal. It's just having OCD, but your OCD is not of germs, it's not of organization, but it's of suicidal thoughts. Let me know in the comment section below if you want me to cover that topic. That's an interesting topic. And I can, because I've had a lot of kiddos and a lot of adults that have dealt with OCD and the various kinds of OCD, because there's many. But back on topic. These individuals deal with suicidal ideation, suicidal gestures, suicide attempts, and self-injurious behaviors, okay? The next thing that they deal with is a fear of abandonment, And I talked about that in this video right up here when I talked about 15 indicators of being abused. And I talked about it as almost being selfish, right? That I'm afraid that you may leave me. And individuals who are, you know, pushing severe on the BPD scale, they tend to be of that nature. You know, they'll do whatever they can to keep that individual. I had a young person, 12 years old, and she didn't want her brother to go visit their dad if she wasn't going to go visit their dad also. She was very, very selfish and very, very self-absorbed. And she was severe BPD. She was pushing severe BPD. She was 12. But the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, this thing over here, said that we can now diagnose adolescents with BPD. And I think there's research being done for children, and there needs to be, because kids also can exhibit some BPD traits, and they learn behaviors from their parents who may also have BPD. So it gets really complicated. But this 12-year-old was mature, and she was pushing BPD diagnosis for sure. I held that diagnosis because I don't like to label people unnecessarily, but she was pushing BPD, and she was very, very self-absorbed. She was afraid that he would abandon her, so she was going to hold him back as much as she could. And adults are like that too, who are pushing severe BPD. And last symptom that I'd like to look at, and that a lot of clinicians look at, is emotion dysregulation. How are you going to regulate your emotions? How do you do that? What happens when you get upset? What happens when you get frustrated? Do you have a full-blown onset panic attack when you get upset and frustrated? Can you control it? Do you know how to hold yourself still when you feel like you want to explode? Emotion dysregulation can make relationships really, really difficult, okay? And I'm sure a lot of you know what I mean by that, so I will not harp on that. So let me teach you guys a tool, and let me give you some tips on how to manage individuals like this. The first way that I suggest that you manage individuals, especially parents who are this way, is distance, okay? Know when to distance. I think distance is a powerful tool. Distance puts the power in your court. right? Because you can initiate when you want to respond. You can initiate when you want to deal with that person. You can initiate, when you want to step out on a limb and involve yourself. So distance appropriately. The next thing is strategize. Okay, strategize your involvement with them. So if you know your parent has BPD, whether that's mom or dad, you know that they're emotional. You know that something can go awry at any moment. So strategize. Know what to do if something goes awry. Have an exit strategy, right? Have something that you're going to say to calm them down. If you guys have a disagreement, right, remind yourself that, okay, let me calm down. This person gets way more emotional than me. Let me control myself because I have more control. I have more focus. I have more understanding of how I need to be in this moment, right? So remind yourself of those things. The other thing that you can do to strategize is strategize your distance. Right? Okay, I'm going to take 5 days off before I call them, or I'm going to take a day off before I call them, right? So strategize. The next thing that I suggest is find better avenues. So find better avenues to communicate. Maybe you don't need to see them in person all the time. Maybe you can use Zoom or Google Hangouts or, something to get in touch with them. Kind of keep that distance between the two of you, right? Maybe you can text more often. Maybe you can email until you guys can get back onto a nice level. Or maybe you just want to use these tools to kind of keep things level between you guys. You don't have to see each other face to face if this is an individual who's hard to deal with, right? So you can find better avenues. Find better avenues by scheduling on certain days or certain holidays, right? So kind of, again, strategize. The next thing is intellectualize their behavior. I think the best way to protect your heart is to intellectualize what's going on. And I'm going to teach you to do that right now. And I utilize this tool mainly with my kiddos, but you can do it as a self-reflection activity for yourself, okay? What I want you to do, if you're going to do this with me, I encourage you to, I want you to draw a line in the middle of your page, okay? You probably can't see that, but draw a line in the middle of your page, and it's crooked. It's been such a long day, guys. I'm sorry. When you do that, I want you to create an iceberg. My iceberg literally looks awful. I can't draw, guys. I really can't. My brother's the artist, both of them. They were blessed. I wasn't. So draw an iceberg. What you want to do at the top of the iceberg, okay, is write this sentence, okay? Things I can see. Things that I can see, okay? So you want to do this right at the top. Things I can see, okay? Underneath the bottom, things I can't see, okay? Things I can't see. And what you want to do with this activity, now this is actually an activity that I talked about in this video up here, but I'm switching it up for you, and I've switched it up for my families who deal with BPD. So things I can see and things that I can't see. Here's what you're going to do, and this is just by yourself. This is a self-reflection activity, so you don't have to worry about how you put it down, all that stuff. What are the things that you visually can see in the individual in your life who has BPD? What's obvious? So you want to write at the top of that iceberg, under things I can see: anger, impulsivity, stormy relationships, emotion dysregulation, jealousy, envy, hatred, what else? Frustration, fast driving, neglect of kids, abandonment of her family or his family, a need for dominance and control, displaced anger, intermittent explosive behavior, right? Nice personality, can be giving, right? Can be charitable, can be intelligent. You want to write all the things that you visually can see in that individual. Okay, and that goes up here. At the bottom, guys, things that I can't see, you want to put something in there that basically says this: what are the things that they could possibly be experiencing and feeling that I just can't see? Inadequacy, fear, narcissism, sociopathy, anger, disappointment, low self-esteem, low self-efficacy, pain, hurt, right? You want to put all the things that maybe might really be going on that you can't see, right? You only see the things at the top, right? You see visually what they do and how they behave, but what could possibly be under the surface that you're not seeing? And that can trigger empathy. It really can. And I've done it before, and I'm like, this is a clinical tool right here. I was surprised that it actually helped me gain some insight, and my families as well. And it could really give you that compassion and that empathy that you need for that person, that difficult parent. to be more specific. So thank you so much for being with me today, guys. In this video, I encourage you to comment in the comment section below. Let me know how this topic relates to you, and go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, please. That pushes the video up in the search results, and that way, other people can gain access to this video. It really helps YouTube see what a good video some of these videos are when you give it a thumbs up and when you comment. It's interesting. That's how YouTube works, And go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you want to stick around with us and continue to learn things. If you have a suggested topic, let me know. We have a lot of cool stuff coming up right here. I listed some of them in October, and I'm looking for videos in November. I'm thinking of a live YouTube, so let me know if you want me to do that. We might start talking about holidays and family, because that's coming up real soon. And with Corona, that's going to be something. All right, guys, so I'll see you in the next video. Take good care. Bye-bye.